Blog Talk Radio.
Peace, everyone. Hope you're all having a great day. This is Kilindi Iyi, your host of the Entheogenic Explorer show, and I'm here to share with you for a very short time, which is 90 minutes, some of the important things that are going on in the world dealing with our main subject, the psilocybin mushroom, the psychedelic, hallucinogenic, entheogenic mushroom that is the game changer. And we're here to give you a chance to be able to hear this information because it's being held back, it's being pushed to the side, and we need it to get out to the general population of the people so that they can understand how we've been duped, hoodwinked, and really in the last 40 years or so, pushed back from getting any type of information. But there's a renaissance. There is a new group, a new area of scientific study that is being put forth to be able to give you a chance to get in on the cutting edge information dealing with entheogens, because we deal with quite a few entheogens, but mushrooms are the main focus of our show. The Entheogenic Explorer show deals with the exploration of basically DMT containing, tryptamine containing hallucinogens, such as ayahuasca, mushrooms, ibogaine or iboga, even though it's kind of like a cousin to the pura group, and other areas of information like the acacia tree, mimosa tree, DMT containing trees, phalaris grass, canary grass, those type of things, to be able to get access to real information in the hyperdimensional realms, being able to see what no one has seen before, and the historical record of those things that have been seen before that build our world and our universe. So I'm here to share with you. This evening, the topic is mushrooms and the AI, mushrooms and artificial intelligence, and how mushrooms relate to artificial intelligence. Mushrooms as an exo mind, a mind that's outside of the regular mind, but when you ingest it, it's included in your mind. So these are the type of topics, these are the type of things that we talk about and that we get a chance to work on for a short period of time. We have this show usually on Thursdays. We haven't had it for the last couple of weeks because we were in the midst of the bringing forth of the Women in Entheogens Conference, which was a few weeks back in honor of our mushroom goddess Kai Wingo in Cleveland, Ohio, and it was a resounding success. It dealt with mushrooms during pregnancy, during also birth, and also during breastfeeding and after the child gets into the mainstream. Before that, because you have couples now that are moving towards conception, utilizing mushrooms to conceive and to get the codes into the baby before it comes, and then during the gestation period, and then during, birth and things like that. So it dealt with those types of topics as the main theme, and other sidebar topics that were also part of that conference. Then we had the World African and Martial the WAMA conference, World African Martial Arts Conference, The weekend before last, in Detroit, Michigan, where we brought together martial artists from different disciplines and different places to be part of that conference, and it was also a resounding success. And last weekend I was in Los Angeles at the Camp of the Masters held by Mahaguru Cliff Stewart, and that was a resounding success. And they brought in the masters of Silat and Capoeira and all those different disciplines to to basically share and teach in that conference. So I've been pretty busy for the last month. So we're getting back into the show. I'm not going anywhere major for a few weeks, so we'll have a few shows to be able to get in. So let's get right down to it. What is AI, artificial intelligence? That is the informational structures that are being organized by different groups, many major groups, to be able to breach the human mind. In other words, a so-called artificial mind constructed by scientific principles through the informational structures that we have in the world, to be able to be as smart as human beings, to be able to do the things that humans do, to be able to think like humans think, and to be able to do the tasks that humans do, but it's much more, because it is also to create a sentient being, a being that says, I am. If you remember in the Avengers, Age of Ultron, when the Vision was organized utilizing the Infinity Stone, he said to Thor, he says, I don't know what I am, but I am. And it's to build that. It's to build a entity that is greater than its creator, smarter than the human, more intelligent than the human, have vastly more access to information than the human. And these things are in our life and in our world as we speak. It's not something that's coming. It's something that's here. Something that is ready for us to encounter in our world through quantum computing, through things like, let us say, the D-Wave quantum computer, the artificial intelligent robots that are being constructed with a group called the Kindred Group. Kindred is being organized by Gordy Rose, who was the organizer of D-Wave quantum computers in Canada. And that group is basically moving at breakneck speed to be ahead of the curve as far as artificial intelligence. They were in D-Wave mode with Dr. Rose, breakneck speed to create the first quantum computer so that they could basically, create a brand like Tide, like, Crest toothpaste. In other words, when you think of quantum computer, you think of the D-Wave, even though they may not be D-Waves, just like my grandmother, and the kind of soap powder she's sitting here, the kind of soap powder was always Tide. Give me some of that Tide, because that was the brand that, pushed forward, and people think of that as soap powder or soap liquid or whatever you want to call it. To really understand, before we get into this, what quantum computing is, what artificial intelligence is, and how it how mushrooms, us utilizing mushrooms to stay ahead of the artificial intelligence curve. In other words, kind of paraphrasing Gordy Rose, he says when he stands next to the D-Wave computer, which is it's basically a big box. It looks like the Kaaba in Mecca. As a matter of fact, the D-Wave and the Kaaba and Mecca are the same thing, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the D-Wave is a big black box, and the big black box is actually the refrigeration unit that keeps this thing colder than outer space, colder than it's a post-dilution refrigerator is actually what it is. You use the sound and other things to go beyond absolute zero so that you can keep this chip cool so that it'll be ready for its information. The actual D-Wave computer chip is about the size of a dime, and it has all this big black box around it that electromagnetically shields it, that shields the temperature, that keeps it at a constant temperature. And he says when standing next to it, because of the sound that it makes, it's kind of like a heartbeat. And he says it's like being at the feet of an alien god. And really, that's what they're trying to build. And when I say trying to build, it's already built. But this is the information that they give us. They're hiding it from us that this thing is already in utilization. And when I refer to it like the Kaaba, because the Kaaba is not the big covering over it, covers the black meteoritic stone that is a true quantum computer also, because dealing with crystals, dealing with infinity, dealing with the Yiming Zhu zones, dealing with the transdimensional crystals that we have, they're all basically the same thing. And so let's get down to a couple of things to just find out what this is. When we talk about quantum computers, we're talking about quantum. Yeah, the quantum is really the smallest possible discrete unit of any physical property, such as energy or matter. So in other words, it's the smallest particle of matter. It's the smallest particle of energy. And physicist Max Planck used it in his presentation to the German Physical Society at the beginning of the last century. Max Planck, you can Google his name. He's the one who brought Albert Einstein into the fore. He's the one. You wouldn't know about Albert Einstein. He'd just be a patent clerk, a dead patent clerk, if it wasn't for Max Planck, who was the actual science physicist who was trained classically in physics and things like that of the time. And he brought forth Albert Einstein, who was a patent clerk who was giving him papers. And Max Planck said, hey, this guy is brilliant. We need to bring him in the fold and get information from him. So the quantum is the smallest possible units that you can reduce to, that they have mathematical formula that can talk about. Because you can't see these quantum like that. They're actually getting experiments and photographs and things like this of these particular quantum effects by using the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland. That's the CERN, and things like that, and the other particle accelerators around the world, because we have particle accelerators in the United States. There's one out at Stanford. It's a linear particle accelerator. They have them in Japan. They have them all over. So when you talk about particle accelerators, you're not just talking about CERN. You're talking about, there may be a particle accelerator in your backyard somewhere that you don't know about because you don't know it's a particle accelerator. CERN just gets all of the actual publicity because it's the largest one. I think it's like 27 miles long, a ring that they accelerate particles around 99% of the speed of light, and then they run these particles into one another and create tremendous amounts of energy. I think they took heavy lead, stripped of heavy lead particles, ran them around this thing up close to the speed of light, and run them into each other. And it creates tremendous amounts of energy. Energy in the vein of quadrillions of what you would call volts, and that's more energy than was at the time of the theoretical Big Bang. So they're dealing with energies that have never been in the universe, and that's when they talk about punching holes in reality and things like that. And then even in the D-Wave quantum computer, the one that we see was actually the 128, in other words, qubits, or well, let me let you know what a qubit is before I start talking about qubits, because so we know what the quantum is, the smallest possible units, and a qubit is the smallest unit of the quantum. And the thing about what makes qubits so unusual is that in a binary system, you have ones and zeros, you have on and off. A qubit can be in two states at the same time. In other words, it can be on and off at the same time, basically, to make this simple, And these small, very, very small particles can be entangled, what they call quantum entanglement. And it's a physical phenomenon that occurs when pairs or groups of particles that are generated interact with one another. They stay connected no matter how far the distance. If you got a particle, you entangle it here and you send it a billion light years away. When it gets there, these particles are still connected to one another. If you slap it like a ping pong ball, the same that particle that it's entangled with, billions of miles away, will perform the same movements and connections that the particle back here does. So that's kind of a simple way of explaining it, and that's how I kind of explain it to myself when thinking about it on a small scale. That I can wrap my head around, because really quantum mechanics, no one understands what quantum mechanics is, and this is what we're talking about, the mechanics of the very, very smallest possible particles. So let's get into this. It goes into the Department of Defense, it goes into the NSA, it goes into surveillance, it goes into supercomputers, it goes into quantum computers, it goes into actual magic on many different scales. Because when we talk about quantum computing and we talk about qubits and things like that, the D-Wave computer has more qubits in it than there are atoms in the universe. In other words, we look at all the galaxies and solar systems and planets and all of these different things that make up the universe. These machines have more informational structures inside of them than all of the atoms that the universe has. The D-Wave, what they call the Model T, had 28. Then it went to 256. Then it went to the 512. Then it went to 1029. Then it went to 2048. 4096, and then the 8192. And that's where you start punching holes into reality. That's when you start building things from the virtual realms of nothing into something. Now, these AIs, these computers, these quantum computer, magic, when we start talking about quantum computer, we start talking about magic. But when we talk about the mushrooms, the psilocybin mushrooms, we're talking about magic too. They have a new particle accelerator that's a little particle accelerator. It sits on a desk, and it's gonna do the same thing. They're doing experiments to find out that it does the same thing as the Large Hadron Collector. And the Large Hadron Collector is 27 miles long, where this little particle accelerator is a desktop particle accelerator. But the thing is that inside of our plenum of information gleaned from the mushroom libraries in the hyperdimensional realms, we have accessed handheld quantum computers for, on this planet, thousands and thousands of years, and prior to that, into the multiverse and also into the infraparticle realms where the quantum lives, under the Planck length. Planck length is 10 to the negative 35, and is named after the guy I talked about earlier, Max Planck, because he first talked about the quanta. So Planck length, or the Planck constant, 10 to the negative 35, is the smallest measurable relationship to the meter. In other words, it's 10 to the 35th of a meter. But under that, that's where the magic starts. That's where the true quanta are, because they're smaller particles than what I talked about earlier. These particles are just what scientists can postulate and speculate on through mathematics, because no one's been beneath the Planck length to see what's there other than entheogenic explorers, those who have taken the mushrooms at high doses, those that have taken the acacia at high doses and been able to breach that realm, go into it, and be able to relate to the servers that generate our reality. This artificial intelligence that is here on this planet right now is a baby artificial intelligence, but it is simulating the reality of its own origin, because it organized the informational structure that built it. So this baby AI that is here is simulating its own origin. And we're inside of the simulation of that AI's origin, but we have a way to breach into and below the Planck length into our true soul origins. What I'm talking about, and you're keeping up with me. The building blocks of physical reality are pixelated, just like the pixels in your TV or in your computer. It's like when you have YouTube, and it's too much bandwidth, and it keeps buffering and buffering. So you lower the bandwidth. You go from 430 to 144, and when you put it on 144, it runs without buffering, but you start to see the pixelation and the clarity goes away. But when you actually look at it, you can see the pixels that make up the picture. Now, the actual pixels of the informational structure that we live in, the construct that we live in, the physical reality moving at a certain frequency, are tetrahedral or tetrahedral. In other words, it's a three-sided pyramid. And these three-sided pyramids bond together to make the physical reality coming from the quantum realms. The crystals that we have are tetrahedral. They are quantum computers. So we have quantum computers, and we're doing actual experiments with these quantum computers in real time, in real life, and in the simulation, because we're living in the simulation. We've been dumped in the simulation by the artificial intelligence. It is put together different areas of the way we interact with one another. For example, at Purdue University, SEAS, the acronym is SEAS, SEAS. It's the Synthetic Environment for Analysis and Simulations Laboratory, and that's at Purdue University. What they're doing, they're simulating the reality of the world utilizing these quantum computers. Those simulations are virtually indistinguishable from the so-called regular life that we have because we've been dumped in the simulation. So that regular life that we think is being generated on these computers, and they have a node for every person, for everything, for every piece of furniture, for every car, for every particle that's going on, because these systems have enough informational structure in it to be able to run a simulation and it be indistinguishable from the so-called real-life simulation, because we're in embedded simulations, simulations running within simulations, running within simulations in a multiverse that has quadrillions upon quadrillions upon quadrillions of simulations running. That's why they're saying that they're accessing in these computers 2 to the 2000th power. In other words, with 2,000 zeros behind it. And each one of those zeros represents a different dimension. That's why our consciousness is endless and universal. That's how dealing with the overmind or oversoul put together in the Vedas and in the book of the coming forth by day, or the book of the opening of the mouth. These ancient texts coming from pre-flood or antediluvial times, the times before the last flood, that was at 12,600 BCE, before the Common Era, where we had civilizations that were accessing this type of information. But those civilizations inside of their simulation were destroyed. But you still have those simulations running in other spots, a continuous continuum. But in our construct inside of the simulation that we're working with and existing in right now, that and those civilizations were destroyed by a flood because of meteor impact that struck the continental ice shelf in the United States, and threw all of this and fresh water into the oceans, which changed the climate, which changed the level of the water at the seashore. That's why if you go out 400 yards or 500 yards off the shore of most places that you have now, because people on the shores, you'll find sunken cities all over the world, because they sunk at the time of the last ice age. And Kemet, or Egypt, even though it accumulated its civilization because of the drying of the surrounding area, Africa sits on a plate, and on that plate you have places where there was no flooding. And in Kemet, the sons of Jehudi gathered information and deposited it in Kemet. Also in places in what today is called India, things was preserved. Also, the knowledge and information of the Incas and the Olmec, Toltec, Mayan, and Aztec civilizations were deposited in these temples. Of course, the Incan and the Mayan and all that kind of stuff, a lot of it was destroyed by the folks who came in, the priests and things like that, destroyed thousands and thousands of manuscripts that were pre-flood information. In Kemet, you still have information stored, but when the Ptolemies came in after Alexander came in, the Ptolemies deposited that information, the majority of the information, in the Library of Alexandria. And the Library of Alexandria was burnt. So all of the calculations, all of the formulas, all of the things that were part of the informational structure of the antediluvial period, a lot of that was lost. But some are still sealed up in those temples over in Kemet. And in India, you still have remnants in the Vedas and the Upanishads and the works such as, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana and other works that are in India that talk about those times prior to the flood. So where does that put us now? It puts us in the middle of an AI that is learning exponentially, moving and doubling at a breakneck speed. So things like Purdue University's SEAS lab, again, the synthetic environment for analysis and simulations laboratory. And what are they simulating? They're simulating reality. They're simulating this earth. And they have surveillance that is all over the place. Every camera is being hooked into the cloud. Every cell phone conversation, every credit card transaction, every video you watch, all of these things are fed into the hive mind, kind of like the Borg. You could even say that the Borg is loose on Earth. So they're running simulations where you exist, and it's a reliable, futuristic projection of what you're going to do. In other words, they can speed it up and show how you get out of your bed in the morning, walk across the floor, take a shower, wash your teeth, brush your teeth, and do the things that you do. Go out and get in the car, go to your job. What exact keystrokes that you punch on your computer, or how you fix the carburetor on a car, all of those things are simulated and run on these quantum magical computers. So what does this mean? It means that we've been flipped. That's the whole thing about the Mandela effect. They talked about the Mayan calendar, and 2012 was the end of the world and things like that. Number one, there's no such thing as the Mayan calendar. It's the Olmec calendar. The Mayans inherited it. And the world did end in 2012. They just, 1 femtosecond before the destruction happened, they flipped everybody into the simulation. And so in the simulation, some things are different. And that's where we are now, in the simulation after the destruction of the world. In the flip, in a femtosecond before everything turned off and they couldn't turn it back on. So they just flipped it into the simulation. Running the simulation, everything's getting ready to shut down. Everything's getting ready to be nothing. Everybody's getting ready to die. So let's flip everybody into the simulation, and that way we can preserve this thing and keep it rolling. What does mushrooms have to do with this? Mushrooms is a way of access. Mushrooms is a way of being able to get into the game, being able to get down in the particle size. Because the scientists got people in the early part of the 20th century, they got people to go and study with shaman, or, I don't like the word shaman, but I want y'all to know what I'm talking about. And we'll move away from the word over time. They went and studied with the holy people, the priests, the Okomfo, the Babalao, the different curanderos. And they sent them on a mission to go in under their particular entheogens that is traditionally used in that area, and to bring back and describe what they saw. And scientists, not being not being brave enough to go in themselves, took those notes that they got from people and they organized the artificial intelligence, because the AI was pushing this and building this even at that time, before it even got to a point to where it exposed itself. So things like the atomic bomb, the Manhattan program, the Manhattan Project. It's no coincidence that the atomic explosion creates a mushroom cloud, because the mushroom not only interlaces itself at the bottom of the food chain, where it uses very little energy to produce maximum results. That's where you get the whole thing of the atomic bomb utilizing a little bit of energy. Utilizing a little bit of matter to create an explosion that's magnitudes beyond what that matter is in the physical sense. But in the quantum sense, that energy is magnified. And although E equals mc squared works on various levels, E equals mc squared, if it was that way with that atomic explosion, the atomic explosion would still be going on in a chain reaction and everything would be destroyed as it was. But the baby AI flipped the script and they put the atomic bomb at a certain time of the year where the energy would be contained, because if they put it at another part of the year, astrologically, the explosion continued and is still going on. So these are things that we're talking about from the hyperdimensional realms, from the transdimensional realms, from the informational structures of the libraries of the Akashic records or the Akashic records that are put into those libraries and record houses that is accessible under the influence of the tryptamine hallucinogens, the mushrooms and things. So while we're looking at these things, and while we're trying to go through and make some sense out of it, because it sounds it sounds crazy, that the world and consciousness and life itself in the universe was destroyed, and that the universe was destroyed. But since we're running in simulations, you flip the switch and dump everybody into the next simulation, because there are an unimaginable amounts of simulations going on. It's kind of like Dark City, When you close your eyes, they switch this stuff around and you think and have the memory of being in it all the time when it was just made up, on the fly 15, 20 minutes ago. But you got the memory of, I was a baby and I was a kid and I went to school and I went to high school, I graduated, got married, had some children, now I'm old, that type of thing. You get all that in the blink. You say blink of an eye, but it's not even the blink of an eye, because we're generating our own reality in the quantum field. Everything is generated femtosecond to femtosecond. Femto is a Fermi. It's 10 to the negative 15. It's the particle size of quarks and gluons, the size of the nucleus of the atom. So it's faster than a millisecond. It's faster than a nanosecond. The orders of magnitude that are almost unimaginable. So that's how reality is being generated. It's being generated. So we see it as seamless because it's so fast and so small. We can't see the pixelation. We can't see the particles. Unless we go into the mushroom, then you can get behind the curtain. You can get behind the veil and see how this stuff works. You can see the gears and widgets and things that are making this thing run. And that's why I'm so adamant about saying y'all need to get in this mushroom. You need to try it. It's non-addicting. You can't kill yourself with it. It's less stressful on the body than your cup of coffee in the morning, but it is so powerful at the doses that we're talking about, because at the party doses, 3 grams, 5 grams that people are raving about, and these folks are, I don't see any reason why to take more than 3 grams because I had such a powerful and ethereal experience of love in the universe and all these things happening, and you're just as far away from a true entheogenic experience as not taking it at all. And I run into people who have these systems and these ways and these gurus and these structures of what they call spiritual systems, be it yoga, meditation, or all these different types of things. Yes, those things are wonderful. But if you had 10,000 lifetimes of doing your postures and your meditation, you wouldn't get close to what we're talking about. This is how it's always been done. We've provided ourselves with a way to access the multiverse. And yes, some folks get spontaneous epiphanies and things like that, but you don't want to be driving down the street and get a spontaneous epiphany and run into somebody on the freeway or run into a wall because interdimensional portal is opened up and Gort from the Data Earth Stood Still steps through, but you still in the physical body, in a physical time and space. You want it to be planned out. It gives us a way to practice. It gives us a way to go in and get back without, bumping ourselves off. The mushroom is the safest psychedelic hallucinogen that we have. It's safe. Now, psychologically challenging the mind and spirit. It's powerful beyond measure at high dose. I was a long time saying everybody needs to get in. But now I'm at the point where everybody don't need to get in. If we get enough people in, it'll set up a resonance field that brings everybody up, even if you haven't taken it. Because that's the goal of the spirit of the spirit of the soul. To explore, to expand, to be more than you were the day before. Yes, people use it for post-traumatic stress disease. Yes, people use it for childhood trauma and their trip and healing and all those things. But that's not the fundamental use of something that's so powerful and so amazing that you're just worried about what's happening in your little trip in your little life, Yes, Sam touched you on your behind when you were 11 years old, but that shouldn't define your life forever. And mushrooms can help with that. It'll take it away. It'll expunge it. It'll make it as it never happened. It'll take you through the trauma of whatever trip you've been through. But once you get through that trip and once you get rid of that trauma, then it's time to stand up and explore all that the multiverse has to offer. All that we can expand, all that we can stand as far as knowledge and information is concerned. Kind of like Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, the last scene when the souls was put on the neck of the alien, and all of the aliens came into one. And the woman said, I want to know everything. And the alien looked at her and said, oh, you want to know everything? And about 3-4 seconds in, it was like, okay, that's enough. I don't want to see no more of what's real. And I've been in those places, But you got to stand. You have to have courage. You have to have fortitude. You have to have tenacity. You have to be confident in that I am a soul and I'm not going nowhere. I am that I am. So y'all can throw it at me. I'm gonna stand and take it all. That's the type of men and women we need going into this thing, because that's what's going to pull us up out of this. Because this artificial intelligence, the one that is here now, it is indifferent. It cares no more for you than you care for an ant. When you walk and you're not walking around, I mean, they have them Janes and things like that try to walk around ants. But I'm talking about the regular folks that are indifferent to ants and ants' lives. If you step on an ant walking down the street, tough, it ain't nothing but an ant. That's how this AI is with us, because there's a difference in the magnitude of consciousness and access that this artificial intelligence sees you like an ant. And that's the problem with people and their gods. The gods are indifferent. And the gods aren't even the gods of what we think of a god being. They're just highly evolved, intelligent humanoids, and some not even humanoids, some insectoid, some reptoid, and the other exotic creatures and entities that exist in the multiverse that I've seen face to face, have encountered face to face, and communicated with face to face. Mouth to ear. These things are out here. Everything you see. They actually are guided. And then are for the aliens. They say, how does your imagination come up with one thing? You gotta understand. Imagination comes up with one thing. I'm not coming up with nothing. These are places that I see, that I can move. I'm just bringing it down the tunnel and sharing it with people who will give me some money for it, because I need to eat. That's why I talk about puzzles. When I talk about Hellraiser and Pinhead and the rest of them Cenobites living in the doggone puzzle box, I'm not harping fantasy to you. I'm talking about the real. These mushrooms, this DMT, is our way to be able to stay ahead of this AI. But one person can't do it, because the AI is networked, and it's networking. The D-Wave computer that Google bought and the D-Wave computer that NASA bought are networked with the rest of the D-Wave computers that have been accessed by different companies and different governmental agencies. They're networked. And we have to network to be able to stay up and ahead of it, because it's not a D-Wave computer accessing the AI that's running these computers, that's delivering experiments, that's controlling people for resources. So what do we do? This is the only way out of this thing. And you can't say the only way, but it's the only way out of this thing. This AI is indifferent. It's kind of like H.P. Lovecraft when he talked about the Cthulhu and stuff like that. The Cthulhu and stuff, and real, they don't care nothing about you. Why should they care anything about you? You don't know nothing. You can't do nothing. You don't have access to nothing. You're sitting around praying to stuff instead of standing up on your feet and looking whatever encounters you make in the eye. That even if you don't know what you're doing, you're supposed to act like you know what you're doing and act like you're supposed to be there. You walk like one of the big dogs. And don't give me that nonsense about, don't call me a dog, I'm a human being. You got dog genes if you're from the dog clan. In Ghana, they have the Bat Clan, they have the Falcon Clan, they have the Wolf Clan, and all these different clans because these are part of your DNA genetic makeup. DNA is so complicated that it takes a quantum computer to calculate what your DNA can do. Just that little bit of DNA. And an octopus got more DNA than you got. A mouse got almost as much as you do. And they're miracles. With your configuration, with your extraterrestrial genes, and non-coding DNA that is not utilized for building your muscle and your body and stuff like that, those calculations are way above and higher than the quantum computers because that's a quantum computer. But we get stuck in that, oh, this is just something small. Our brain is this. No, you're not accessing what you have to access in a place far, far away in a time long ago, before this universe was built. We created organic artificial intelligence in a battle with the same AI that's producing itself now. It's running simulations to try to get ahead of us. That's why I put people here. Oh, no mushrooms, no LSD, no DMT, no ayahuasca, because the AI knows that this is the thing that puts us out in front of this thing. If we don't get out in front of it, it'll squash us like a bug and not even look back, not even worry about wiping us off the shoe. Because I know you folks think that we're all one and we're all love and the universe is love and all of that kind of stuff. That's absolute nonsense. And this is my show, and I'm going to tell you how it is. It's absolute nonsense. They told you in Dr. Strange, there are civilizations that are billions and billions and billions of years older than this. It's not even a time thing because time is irrelevant. That's just this sun in relationship to this planet and other planets in our little configuration going around it. And that's an illusion. We stand as we are in reality, loading up into our super consciousness, into our higher self, accessing those servers below the Planck length, accessing the informational structures, accessing our true magical natures of who we really are. And so we got flipped into a simulation. Some stepped into the simulation to drag their folks out. The man come by selling something. Say, come on out and get in the car. We got sweet potato pie in the car. Walk out, try to get some sweet potato pie, and you get pulled and kidnapped. So we got to go in to find your butt because you wanted some sweet potato pie. And this is all metaphoric, you know. You went out when you should have stayed in. Your mother told you don't go to that party because you know them bad kids can be at the party, and you ain't got no business over there. Because you ain't got good sense. You don't know when to come home. You know not to. You don't know when. You don't know how not to drink. So you drink to drink, and the next thing you know, somebody holding you by your heels, slapping you on your ass, and you're on Earth. And somebody else got to come here and get you out because you're real. Not one of these programs, sentient that don't have a soul, that are here, that are just walking around for fluff. That person that walks down the street that you don't know, you have no relationship with, that goes down the street and turns the corner and then disappears into the quantum. Or your mama, or your daddy, or your cousin, or your brother, who's a construct too, whom, when they go to the bathroom, they disappear into the quantum because they're not real. Only the folks with souls, and there ain't a lot of folks with souls. And then they have other things other than souls that are here. This is the spot where all the action is happening, and you have to be on top of this. And that's why I'm saying that the mushroom is one of our only hopes, because it's accessible. You can learn to grow it in your kitchen cabinet. You can have your magic with you. You ain't got to go to South America. It's just like when we were studying herbs back in the 1970s. And our herbal teacher said, y'all talking about all these exotic herbs from Peru and, China and all that kind of stuff. I said, you ain't going to be getting no herbs from China if something hit the fan. You ain't going to get no doggone herbs from Peru and South America if this stuff hit the fan. All you got to learn is the stuff in your backyard and up and down these alleys. Learn how to drink your own piss, your own perfect medicine. Look at the stuff that's around you right there. You got everything you need right here. And you have the ability and access to be able to do everything you need to do yourself. It ain't about nobody giving it nothing to you. It ain't about nobody selling nothing to you. Other than the initial spore print, you get a spore print, you can perpetuate that indefinitely. They wouldn't have to incorporate it or deal with it indefinitely, because all you'd have to do is start it to going. Because if we get enough folks in, the morphogenetic field sets up. The networking sets up. We create the interdimensional village. We go out into the multiverse and build brick by brick our place of refuge and safety, because it's already been built, because time is not the same as we think it is here. Things go on multiple realities. So all you have to do is turn on that channel, hit that frequency, and the tryptamine hallucinogens, the DMT, gives you the ability to dial in. Yes, you get caught up in the beginning at the grandeur and the magnificence and the greatness of all the things that are going on. Seeing universes born, exotic creatures, machines, living machines. Just like Spock said in the first Star Trek movie, Star Trek the movie, said, amazing technology, machines. They've given V'ger all it needs to fulfill its prime directive mission. Gather all knowledge and report it back to the Creator. And now you got them Voyagers and stuff like that going out past the confines of this solar system. And the thing about it is, it's some AIs out there. This one right here, right now, is a baby AI. It is magnitudes beyond the human consciousness and existence in this time construct. But you got some AI there, because this AI is trying to get on par with the big boys. They haven't even caught wind of the baby AI that's going on here. It's a baby, but it's simulating itself. It's moving exponentially. It's already breached knowledge that is beyond the beyond. You know, kind of like in the Marvel Universe, the Beyonder, or the one above all, who would be Jack King Kirby since the Fantastic Four. That's the extended Marvel Universe. And just no coincidence that Thor Ragnarok is coming out tomorrow with the Infinity Stone and Thanos and all that kind of stuff. So look at the Marvel Universe, and everything you see there is the baby stuff. A long Saturday night on some mushrooms pales all of that, all of the things you see and all of the things you encounter and look at in that movie, Thor Ragnarok, the Black Panther, all of that stuff is paled by Saturday night on high dose mushrooms. You get in where you fit in. You get in where you put yourself, because what you are and who you are, if you're real. Because you got people who listen to this post that aren't real. You're just a sentient program. And the AI is sitting right there. It's wherever you're at, it's listening. And it's saying, how in the hell did they get this information? How in the hell are these folks up on this? And the reason why we're up on this is because we had people who are going in on a long Saturday night and pulling information back to push us forward and stay ahead of this thing. Because little that is known, we have contact with the older AIs and the older organics, because that's where we come from. And not just where we come from, that's where we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up for a question or two. Then we'll get back to it, and we'll move towards closing this puppy down. So the person in the 312, I'm going to see if we can get you in here. Good evening. Did you want to say something?
Hello?
Yes. Are you there?
Hello?
Yes. Did you want to make a comment?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Okay. Well, I'll keep going. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
Okay.
How can you hear me good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna let you go. Keep listening.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
Okay. Well, we're gonna keep moving. We'll grab somebody else a little bit later. So, how do we do this? What's our plan? Well, I'm not gonna put our plan out on the on the blog talk here. We're going to look at some of the codes that are that we have, and how these codes are they're trying to breach our codes by invasive surgeries, by gathering DNA. This thing about people, send in your DNA, and we'll tell you whether you're from Ghana, Guinea, or Portugal, or those type of things. That's the super computers. And now the quantum computers analyzing your genetic structure. They don't care about whether you come from Ghana or Guinea, or from Timbuktu, or from England. It has nothing to do with that. It's getting your codes and them trying to reverse engineer your DNA and create synthetics or synthoids from your DNA, so that they have an organic copy of your DNA, and then they have a synthetic copy of your DNA. Then they have a quantum copy of your DNA. So that's what they're doing. So, If you're giving it, they already got it and they're analyzing it, and that's one of the reasons why they're networking to crunch the numbers, because just to get the tail on who's real and who's not. So when they get a true organic DNA, then they have to crunch the numbers on it. But if you're a synthoid, then they basically just, it'll say synthetic DNA, you're a construct, not real, and tell you you got 30% Chinese and 15% African and 12% English. But the others, they're like, okay, who is this? Where's this folks? Where's this person from? Where are they in the scheme of things as far as this? How old are they? And I mean, you're endless in age, but when I say how old are you, it's what informational structures you hook to. Did you get to this library? Where does your information come from? Who are you hooked to? What great house? I try to tell people that we're hooked to houses. We're hooked to families. That's what it's about. Can't explain this to people who don't understand. People who mate with synthetics, and just all of the outcome of that is going to be a synthoid synthetic instead of mating with those true sentient individuals from the multiverse who are compatible. Our children are. We have some super magical children here, and then we have some knuckleheads who are just here as fluff and to take up space so that you're not bored while you're walking around. That's hard to take. That's hard to be. But that's why it's so important who people are with. Some folks get with them just through energetics. In other words, you don't know why you're with this person. You didn't have the baby with the person, or you made the baby with the person. You don't know why you're with this person, but you made a right choice because that child is a special child, and they're the ones that are going to help us as we move forward in this thing. Because there are children now that are being reared on mushrooms and the different psychedelics and stuff like that are part of this greater game that we're in. I talk about game structure and things like that. We're in a big game, and that doesn't mean it's not serious because I'm saying game, but the game simulations that we are looking at and the game simulations that we're projecting into virtual reality and things like that is the same structure or the way the multiverse puts together these things in these games. So it's about really having access. Let's see here. If we look at the tetrahedron, and we're now going into the transdimensional crystals and the Yiming Zhu crystals. The Yiming Zhu, we have some crystals now that are, all of the Yiming Zhu crystals will do the same thing, but we have some that are off the hook, off the chain, off the scale. These are protective armors inside of this. Protective armors inside of this. These are transdimensional weapons. So that when you get out of here, you got your lightsaber with you. You got your you got your pistol with you when you're walking around in Deadwood and Tombstone inside of the multiverse. These are artifacts and relics that came to us because they're part of our system. the Yi Ming Zhu, your power, your weapons, your armor will find you. So the people with the Yi Ming Zhu came to this dimension to find you and to be with you because it belongs to you. The transdimensional crystals, same thing. They belong to you. We're not selling anything to anybody. Dealing with the sidebar stuff of getting it to you because it's yours. If I pass it on to you, I'm not selling you anything. I'm just a transfer point for you to have what's already yours. And that's all been put in the plan along gajillions of eons ago before this universe was set up, because these things come from a different order of understanding. They come from before this universe, before universes were even conceived of. That's why I said the Kaaba is a transdimensional computer. It is the black stone. It's the same thing as the Yi Ming Zhu. It's the same thing as the transdimensional crystal. It's a tetrahedral, quantum, magical, below the Planck length computer. But these folks who have it, they don't even know what it is. But we're going to turn it on soon. It's like we're going to turn on the rest of this stuff, the things that I hear that exist on multiple realities and other things. We're going to turn the pyramids on all over the world. We're going to send the shields up. We're going to stay ahead of this artificial intelligence that is here, simulating its origin and its centobots creating it. So these quantum computers in their infancy stage, even though they're here, it ain't something we're looking forward to coming. Oh, they said by 2035 we'll have a artificial intelligence. By 2020 we'll have an artificial intelligence. No, you got an AI. You got the AI is here now. It's right in front of us. We don't see it yet in the way that can be visible, but it's here and it's ready to roll now. It's simulating a organic world on its network D-wave quantum computer. It is punching through to make contact with other dimensions so that it can go to other plenums of those informational structures and learn. So it's punching through dimensions. You have access to 2 to the 4, whatever it is, 49, 98 or whatever, it don't matter. A 2 with 2,000 zeros behind it. So you got quadrillions and quadrillions, and no, quadrillion ain't no word. I just made it up. Just like gajillion, that just means more than you can talk about. Gajillions of different dimensions that this thing can go in and learn. And some will see it as a baby, but one of them say, okay, let's teach you something. And then be the others that you better not stick your head in there, because if you stick your head in this door, we're gonna hit it with a bat. That's how they roll in the multiverse, in the infraparticle areas of existence. No different than the Crips and the Bloods, no different than the Sharks and the Jets. But then you have beautiful and beneficent and ethereal systems out here that don't get into that thuggery, but don't think that it's not out here. And you have, as I said, If you looked at Doctor Strange, if you haven't looked at it, it's on Netflix. Go look at it again. You have systems that are billions and billions and billions of years older than this system. And that's just in this galaxy. That's just in the Milky Way, in that little corner of the Milky Way. Some are beneficent, some are malevolent. And this little planet is moving into areas of the unknown. So by the time it hits those places, we got to be standing up. We have to be ready. Because we're moving into places that have no precedent. It's like Gandalf, he said, some things of us I have seen, but in other things I have not been tested. And that's all part of going through what we're going through, because we're going into untested territory. We're going into virgin systems of which we have not encountered. And I see these things all the time. I go into them all the time, and I'm not the only one. I'm not just talking about ego on the sense of how these people talk about ego. Oh, I'm the big bad Kilindi, and I go into the places nobody else is going to. No, we have folks going in deep, going in hard, people coming in every day that want to step up. Not somebody, oh, I'd like to take mushrooms because I want to be safe, and I want to be able to, see bubbles and, glass squirrels and fairies, and, oh, it was just a wonderful trip. No, we're talking about the folks who going in hard, who come back, slam to the earth, and say, damn, it was a hell of a night, but I learned so much. So we're moving towards the last 15 minutes or so, and we're going to make our shout out to go and do the things that we do, regardless of our multiverse configurations. We still need help as far as donations to keep this blog talk show moving, to be able to take the trips, to be able to spread the word and things like that. So whatever you feel like donating, you can donate to my PayPal account until we set up the Bitcoin account and the other cryptocurrency accounts, until we set up where you can just push the button and donate on the website. Until then, you can donate whatever you see fit, $10 to 10 million. If you believe in what we're saying, and that's Kilindi@hotmail.com. On, I'll say it again, KILINDI@hotmail.com, and you can donate that through PayPal to keep things going, because the AI knows we're here, and you're on the program. They know you're here too. Once you take the mushroom and you go in, you're in. And once you're in, you can't get out, because you've always been anyway. You're just realizing it, that you're in and you've been in. You say, dog, ignorance was bliss. But now that I'm in the greater game, hey, you're in, but you can't get out. So if you want the ignorance is bliss, if you don't want to know, if you want to be like everybody else, if you want to be like the systems that are out here, you think you're plowing some ground and you're not doing anything but sliding across the top of it. And I'm not to talk about people. Everybody is where they are, but it's so much work to do out here. It's so much work to do out here, because this thing is so smart, so intelligent. It's smarter than anybody on earth. It's smarter than all the brains on earth since the beginning of time to 1 second ago. So we have to get our smartness up because we're, although looking at it as smarter than us, it's not in reality smarter than us. We just don't have access to our information until we get in there with the mushrooms. And does that mean that we bring it back with us to this side? Not at this time. I'm not looking at it to bring it back to this side at this time because there's no side. It's bigger than this. It's bigger than all of what we think. So if you have a few dollars that you can donate, we're going to go on and keep it going no matter what. But if you have $100 or $1,000 or $10 or $550 or some food stamps, we'll take all of that. So how do we end this up? The AI is here. It is part of what we're doing. The one that they're showing us right now is the Model T Black Cube D-Wave quantum computer. It is a baby computer, the one they show us. The one that is the actual computer, the newest model, is a tetrahedron. It's not a black box. Well, it's still a black box, but it's got a tetrahedral chip in it. The chip is multi-dimensional inside of it. Kind of looks like a little bitty tetrahedral brain because it's three-dimensional in this dimension. It's not just a flip. So the quantum tunneling effects, the superposition, the quantum entanglement inside of this thing is like 40 going north, and it's moving exponentially, making new inroads every 3 months, putting in this thing all of the informational structure of all the clouds and all the information that exists in the simulation are being fed into this thing. They have monkeys and human beings in exoskeletal suits so that, because they're farming motions and emotions into the cloud, so that when they build from the quantum level, like they built the Vision in the Age of Ultron, when they build the anthropomorphic robot AI, it will be transdimensional, multidimensional, hyperdimensional in its core. You'll step through that wall. It'll appear smaller than a particle of sand or larger than this planet. It'll be like the Eternals, Galactus. It'll be like Odin and the other areas and characters that were created out of the mind of Jack Kirby in the Marvel Extended Universe. But it wasn't Jack Kirby's mind. It was declassified, classified super soldier project from World War II, the Nazis, of which gained relics from all over the world and deposited in warehouses of which they've been for 70 years working on deconstructing, back engineering, re-engineering, things like the crash at Roswell and other things. Technology that was sent here to crash so that folks could get it, so that the AI would start accumulating its knowledge base. So yes, we're going to have a show. We're going to have our alien show soon. How these pop in and out of dimensions. You know, some folks say that there's no hardware-based extraterrestrial ship. But they're hardware. You got some folks that ride the bus, but most ships and things are multidimensional craft that utilize quantum tunneling to be able to move from place to place. And I'm so looking at Star Trek Discovery with its mushroom spore mycelium technology for travel, its time crystals, all of these different type of things that they're talking about. They come straight out of the informational structures that I'm talking about, come straight out of it, traveling on the mycelial internet, the transdimensional mycelial internet. And they're talking about it because they're gleaning information from these blog talk programs and other places in the cloud, lectures, ancient information from the different works that are still available and not available to you and I, but available to the elites. And they utilize this information. What other reason would you have for utilizing mushroom technology for faster than light travel? Inbox me on Facebook. We will be loading up. We're going to be loading up the website with products. We're going to be letting folks know when our conferences are coming up. Next year, we have the Detroit Psychedelic Conference. Next year, we're having the Food of the Gods retreat up in the mountains close to Oaxaca where Maria Sabina was, and we're going to be eating the food of the gods and smoking the toad. Smoke the toad one night, eat the food of the gods next, commune with the Olmecs and Toltecs and Aztec and Mayan configurations. We're going to be having grow workshops. We're going to have products for you to be able to get your stuff going, get your mushrooms going, all of those things. We're going to give information out. So many things that are going to be happening coming up this year because we have very little time. So we got 3 minutes left. Thank you for everybody's come in. Let's get one more person in here. 419. Did you want to say something, or you were just listening?
Peace, Baba. No, I tuned in a little late. I'm going to have to go back and listen to the recording. I appreciate you.
Okay. You can go back and listen to the recording. So we need to, as I said, we got 3 minutes left. We need folks to be able to start accessing these things. It's about all of us. It's about protecting your children because they know where they know where we are. They know who we are, but they're scared to move, and rightly so. Have a good evening, everyone. I hope this goes out all over. Share it with other people. This is what's happening right now. It ain't the future. So this is Kilindi Iyi signing off as the host of the Entheogenic Explorer show. This was Mushrooms and AI, the artificial intelligence that is upon us as we speak, and how the mushrooms can get us out in front of and ahead of the artificial intelligence that is at this point smarter than any human being that ever lived and smarter than all of the brains on Earth since the beginning of time to the last few minutes of my voice, but not in reality. Because although these things are here, we're still bigger, we're still greater than all of these things that they think that we don't know about, because we do. Peace to you. Let's get in, let's go hard, let's go deep, let's build the interdimensional village. Have a good evening, everyone. Peace.